On this week's FYI, a special report from the Arctic where wildlife is under threat from climate change.
I just am so happy I've seen such large and wonderful creatures.
And thousands of us join in a great big assembly to celebrate Black History Month.
It's very important to recognise what Black people have done for society.
Hello, this is FYI, where we help you to make sense of everything that's going on in the world.
Yep, and this week we need to start with what's been happening in the country of Israel.
It's all very upsetting. Israel is now at war with a Palestinian militant group called Hamas, who the UK and many other countries regard as terrorists.
When Hamas launched the surprise attack on Israel, more than 1,000 innocent people were killed. And since then, the area has seen terrible fighting and loss of life, the worst in 50 years. So, what's going on? For 75 years, Israelis and Palestinians have been fighting over one thing: land. Both sides claim the same part of the world is their rightful homeland. This part of the Middle East wasn't always called Israel. Until 1948, it was known as Palestine, home to the holy city of Jerusalem, which is so important to three major religions that for centuries, Christians, Muslims, and Jews fought for control of the region. But after the end of World War II, during which 6 million Jews were killed, Britain and its allies decided to give Jewish people a country to call their own, within Palestine. And they named it Israel.
As the refugees boarded the ships that would take them to their new country, they no longer feared the journey. They knew that the reception waiting them at the end of the voyage would be their own people, welcoming them with open arms to the shores of the brand new state of Israel.
The Palestinian Arabs who lived there and neighbouring Arab countries felt this was unfair, and that's led to one of the longest conflicts in history. Over time, many Palestinians have lost their land and their homes. These days, Palestinians live in two main areas, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, where the worst of the recent fighting has been. It's about 1/5 of the size of Greater London and home to more than 2 million people. Gaza is run by a militant group called Hamas, but Israel still imposes strict restrictions on the movements of people who live there, as well as controlling the airspace and the shoreline. It says the security measures are necessary to protect its citizens from rocket attacks by Hamas and to stop militants crossing the border into Israel to carry out terrorist attacks. But on Saturday, the 7th of October 2023, the border fences were breached. Armed fighters from Hamas launched a surprise attack, targeting civilians as well as soldiers. Thousands of rockets were fired. Over 1,000 Israelis were killed, and more than 100 hostages were seized. It prompted an immediate response from the Israeli government.
Israel is at war. We didn't want this war. It was forced upon us in the most brutal and savage way. But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it.
Within hours, Israel hit back with attacks on Gaza. Over 1,000 Palestinian people were killed. Other countries, including the United States of America, promised their support for Israel.
If the United States stands with Israel, we will not ever fail to have their back.
And at 10 Downing Street, the home of the UK Prime Minister, the Israeli flag was projected onto the building as a sign of solidarity with the Israeli people.
You may have seen some upsetting pictures of the war on the news this week. So what should you do if you're worried about what's been happening? We've been getting some advice from an expert.
So my advice is, if you hear or see something on the news that makes you feel anxious or a bit worried, talk to the adults at home. You might also want to limit the amount of news that you're watching or listening to. Watching a programme like this will help you understand what's happening. And if you're a young person in the UK from the Jewish or the Palestinian community, talk to the adults around you, particularly if you're feeling blamed for what's going on. Remember, help is available.
Over the next 6 weeks, we've got a series of special reports on how the climate crisis is threatening the survival of our wildlife all over the world.
Yep, we're starting in the Arctic, and it's all part of a new documentary from Sky Kids called Save Our Wildlife.
Hello, my name's Aneeshwar and I'm 8 years old. And I made it my mission to highlight what's happening to our world. This is the Arctic at the top of our planet. And I've come here because this place is on the front line of our fight against climate change. Temperatures here are rising faster than anywhere else on Earth. And because of that, the ice is melting and turning to water. For the wildlife that lives here, it means a daily battle for survival. So let's get going! I'm setting off from the port of Longyearbyen, which is the closest town to the North Pole. And it doesn't take long before we get our first sighting of some wildlife. Look, over there! A humpback whale! One of the largest animals on the planet! I can't believe how lucky we are to see this! Oh, we're getting the tail! Woo! I'm really quite emotional about it. I'm really happy. But I've got to remember the main reason I'm here is to look out for walrus. And actually, it's something we all can do. WWF is asking us all to be walrus detectives using our computers or tablets. So what exactly are you asking people to do?
Walrus are big, powerful animals, but they're also increasingly vulnerable to the climate crisis. So we need to better understand walrus in order to safeguard them into the future. But that's a really, really difficult thing to do because the Arctic is vast, it's remote. So that's why we think using satellite pictures taken from 400 miles up in the sky, can help us to better understand walrus and predict them into the future.
Okay, it sounds cool, but what do we have to do?
Well, if you log on to the Walrus from Space platform on the WWF website with your parents, you can search for walrus in hundreds of thousands of pictures of the Arctic coastline.
Can you show me how it works?
Sure, well here you see a picture, and in the top left-hand corner of this image, you've got a small brown blob. Well, those are actually walrus. So once we find all the pictures with walrus, then we'll count them. But every now and again we go out and we do field work and we fly drones over the walrus to make sure that our counts are really accurate and we can help to protect these animals into the future.
All this has made me even more determined to try and spot some walrus in the wild. Look over there! They're walruses! They are huge! I just am so happy I've seen such large and wonderful creatures. I love their adorable little eyes. To tell me more about them, I've arranged a chat with one of the world-leading experts in polar wildlife.
And do you see their different colours? It's because they're molting their hair.
Are you worried what climate change might do to these beautiful walrus?
I am. I truly am. Because all of the animals that I have spent my whole life working on live in sea ice. And the sea ice is disappearing. And although a lot of people don't understand how important that is, think about the rainforest. If there's no rainforest, there's no rainforest animals, right?
Yes.
If there's no sea ice, there's no sea ice animals.
That's completely true.
They need their home, just like any animal does.
So is there a danger that they could become extinct?
Definitely, because they're having to spend more time on shore. And on shore, they're much more easily preyed upon by polar bears. Walruses and polar bears are arch enemies, and polar bears generally win.
But isn't it true that the walrus population around here has been going up?
Yeah, it's been going up for decades now. They became protected in 1952 after they'd been hunted very, very heavily. But after 1952, no one is allowed to kill them, and they've started to do better.
It's great to hear that walrus in this part of the Arctic are protected. They're such lovely and sociable creatures. Look how they're huddling together. It's been so special for me seeing the wildlife in this beautiful but fragile place. Of course, it makes me sad that climate change could eventually push these animals towards extinction. But perhaps if we all play our part to look after our planet, we can make a real difference. And these wonderful creatures can go on living here for many years to come.
And if you'd like to see Aneeshwar's Save Our Wildlife documentary, it's available now, on demand from Sky Kids.
Plus, as part of the programme, Aneeshwar has been painting all of the animals that are featured, just like this wonderful walrus. If you fancy having a go at that yourself, we'd really like to see your paintings of the animals that you love, and we might show some of them on the programme. Details of how to send us a picture of your paintings are on our website at first.news/FYI.
Now, this week's fake news or fact also has a wildlife theme. There have been reports online about an American woman trying to make a necklace out of giraffe poo.
Could that be a fact? Or is it a tall tale? We'll have the answer later on in the programme.
First though, October is Black History Month, and hundreds of schools have been taking part in a special online assembly to find out more.
The assembly was hosted by FYI's very own Jeriah. Here's how he got on.
I'm about to do something that I've never done before. A live stream to over 200,000 people to talk about something that's really important to me. I'm really nervous, but excited. So come on, follow me.
Good morning everyone and welcome. My name is Chris and I'm so glad you've joined us. We've got schools in Edinburgh, St George's School, we've got Braeside School in Northern Ireland, Ballymena, and we've also got Johnstown's Primary School in Carmarthen, Wales. So all of the nations of the UK are represented. Give us a wave, Brackenhill School.
As part of the assembly, I get to tell everyone about my heritage and some of my role models. So some female role models who I admire in my life are my mum. She's a social worker, so she's always working with children and their families. And my aunts, one of them's a counsellor, the other's a nurse, and the other one's a teacher. So what did everyone think about the assembly?
I really enjoyed the assembly. I thought it was very good to celebrate Black people's achievements.
In the past, they weren't celebrated enough and they were treated disrespectfully, so I think it's nice to show Black people that we will respect them and treat them the same as everyone.
I feel like we should actually celebrate Black History Month more because it's very important to recognise what Black people have done for society.
Wow, I was really nervous, but it was also really exciting. I know school assemblies can be pretty boring sometimes, but I reckon this one went down really well. Good job, everyone.
Now, how did you get on with this week's fake news or fact? Earlier, we told you about a story we'd spotted online, about a woman who wanted to make a necklace out of lumps of giraffe poo.
Well, believe it or not, it was a fact. And here's the proof. The woman had been on holiday to Kenya, and when she came home to America, the poo was confiscated by customs officials.
Yeah, apparently, giraffe poo can only be brought into the USA with proper permits and inspections, because without these checks, it could cause diseases.
Hey, you learn something new every day. Well, that's it for this week, so we'll see you next time. Bye!